All right, just because I want to get this done so you can have as much lap time as possible. So far, we've gone through, we've fixed the home page. We looked at a wireframe and we fixed the the classes page. We copied the classes page to the schedule page and created that. So now what's left are these 9 steps that are here in gray. All right, you'll notice that the first 6 say modify. What that means is we already have those selectors in our CSS file. We're going to add something or remove something or whatever. The last 3 say configure. So those are brand new. So we've got to do these 9 steps. So if you would please bring up your yoga.css file, and that's the one that we're going to change right now. I've got mine up here already. Oops. All right, so the first thing we're told to do is modify the body element to configure a very dark background color. And it's pound 3F2860. I mentioned this to you before. 2 things. First of all, got to remember that pound sign or it's not going to work. Second of all, when you're working with hexadecimal numbers like this, you can use upper or lower case, but please be consistent. It's going to be much easier for you that way. So I'm going to take that color, and remember, down in the body, this is the background color now. See that? For the body, we're changing it to this. Okay, so that's the first thing we've done. I like to make a change and run it. Oh, not run the CSS. But I like to make a change and run it and take a look right away. It's pretty obvious what we just did. All right? So I can go back, and you'll notice it's on there for all of them. Okay? Luckily, we're doing more than that. Modify the wrapper ID. Now we want that same color we had previously, the pound F5, F5, F5 as the background color. So I'm just going to do these in order. So I'm going to go down to the wrapper here. All right, we want the background color that, remember, please look on the screen here. You can say either background or you can say background color. If you are creating it yourselves, I recommend you use background. But you're going to find a lot of people out there in days past, it'll still be out there as background color. All right, if you're doing maintenance work for people. All right. The other thing I want to do for that one is I want to make a minimum width of 1,000 pixels and a maximum width of 1280 pixels. The author is setting this up to run on a laptop or a desktop. You would never repeat. You would never want to use a fixed size like a pixelated size. You just wouldn't, because 1,000 pixels, what if I'm running that on a cell phone? That's going to look terrible on a cell phone. All right, at best, it's going to look terrible. Okay, so we want the min width and the max width. So again, we're down to our wrapper here, and we want min width, and that's supposed to be 1,000 pixels, and we want max width, and that's supposed to be 1,280 pixels. So if you look up on the screen here, we've changed a couple things so far. We went to the body and we changed the background color for the body to pound 3F2860. Now we came down to our wrapper here and we changed the background color to pound F5, F5, F5. We added a min width and we added a max width. That's what's been done so far. I'm going to save. Questions? Again, I'm going to go back to one of my pages and I'm going to refresh. All right, that's looking a little bit better. All right, and please look up on the screen another test question, okay, just so you know. Quite often what you'll do is you'll set up both. We don't have a background image here. Would everybody agree with that? There's no background image. We've got an image, but not a background image. But sometimes you'll set this up so this is a background image. Not only can you not only can you set up both a background image and a background color, quite often you'll do it. Because you might have a really cool background image, but no matter how much you try to stretch it, etc., it might only take up like 90 to 95% of the screen. So quite often what you'll do is you'll take a background color and you'll set it up with the same background color as the image. Then it'll be harder to tell. So, you know, there's a question on the test tomorrow, something like, can you have both a background color and a background image? Yes, and you often do have those. All right. All right. So, I don't want that. We have now come in here, we've modified our body element, we've modified our wrapper element. This is a question for you. And if you don't know, guess. The order in which I put these tags in, body, header, etc., does that matter? No. Most people put their body thing first. In other words, you go from the most general to the most specific, but there's no really hard and fast rule. Just the same way if you look up on the screen here, the things that we have here, the order in which you put these does not matter. It never does. All right. Okay, so now we want to modify the header element. We want to remove the text-align declaration. All right, so I'm going to header. There's text-align. I don't want that. It's gone. Okay? And why do we want to do that? Because remember right now it says Path of Light Yoga Studio. We want to push that over to the left. And over on the right, we're going to want to have that picture of that lily thing. Okay? So we want to configure lilyheader.jpg as a background image. All right? That displays on the right without repeating. Set the height to 150 pixels. We may have to do something kind of funky in this that we don't go over till chapter 6. We're going to see. All right, so we want this as the background image. Okay, for our header. Background image. You may or may not remember that says URL. And then inside of here, I put it in double quotes. I think it works whether you do it or not. Images / lilyheader.jpg, like this. And you got to put background, not background. All right, so that's the first thing we want to do. Then next, we want it to be on the right, and we don't want it to repeat. All right. Well, the first thing you should know this by now. So we want to set background repeat to no repeat. That literally means show it once. Remember, by default, it's set to repeat. So you'd have the picture of that lily all the way across as many times as it could fit in there. We don't want that. We also want the height set to 150 pixels. All right. Now I believe there's one more thing we got to add. Okay? I'm going to run this, but I believe right now it's not going to look right. See that? We want that picture to be way over here. The lily pad, we want it way over there. Okay? Does that make sense? I mean, right now it looks kind of bad, and I think it'll look bad on every page because we're using the same one. All right. And there's different ways that you can do this, but I'm actually going to show you something we don't go over till chapter 6. I think this will fix it, but let me put it in and run it first to make sure. I think if we say float right, all right, I'm hoping that fixes it, but we're going to find out right now. Well, that did not do what I wanted it to do. All right. She did not give good instructions in here on how to do this, so I figured it out myself, and I've actually got it on my other copy. That's not it. Okay, we'll try something else. Instead of float right, we'll try doing that same thing. We'll try open desktop. Oh, that was it. Okay. It's background position. So, let me grab all this stuff and give you what's right. Okay? All right, please look up on the screen. This was it. It was one of the tags that was from this chapter. Background position right, which means slam the thing over to the right. See what's up in gray there? Make sure that you have it set up on your CSS so you have these 5 lines under the header. After you do, if you save it and run, I see Ethan's right there and is this pushed over. That's the way that it should look. Double check on mine here, so I'll just go to the schedule page. That's much better. Home, schedule, classes, schedule, looking much better. All right. What's that? Any questions on any of this stuff for the header, though? All right. I kind of went through it quickly, but when we went over the lecture, there is a background positioning property. All right. And that literally did say, position it off to the right. All right. When we get all done, when we're finished, which ideally it'll be about 10 minutes or so, I'll email all of you my copy for Chapter 4. So if you ever fall behind, but I think that there's really something to be said about you doing this, making mistakes. I made mistakes. I'm showing them to you. All right. So now we've modified this. Okay. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 things to go. 3 down, 6 to go. Modify the H1 element. Remove the line height declaration and configure 50 pixels of top padding and 2 ems of left padding. All right. So we want to remove the line height for our H1. That's all that's in there right now. And it says that we want is padding top. We want that to be 50 pixels. And padding left, we want to be set to 2 ems. If you look at that, you say, "What? That's fine, Jeff, but what the heck is an em?" Literally, it's the amount of space that it takes to print an em on the screen. So in English, what we're saying is we want our H1 to be double its regular size. 2em, and 1em would be its normal size. 2em would be double its normal size. All right. I need the semicolon here. Let me go back and try to run it one more time. Okay. So ideally, this is a little bit bigger than it was previously. All right. So again, what we just added then was this. We removed what was in the H1 tag and we replaced it with what you see on your screen that's in gray. There will come a time when you're working on a website, especially if it's your own site and no one knows your site like you know your site, that you're going to get some real weird, quirky error and stuff just won't work. You know, it'll look funky, it'll look whatever, and you might call me over and I'll look at it, I won't have a flaming clue. When that happens, sometimes, just in case, just so you know, when that happens, one of the first things I typically do is I save everything, then I get out of the package and get back in. Sometimes that actually clears it up. All right? Then what I do is I try to remember what I did last. Okay? And that's why, notice I'm putting in 1 or 2 things and then I'm testing it. I could have put all 9 in and then tested it. But if something goes wrong, I want to know which number it went wrong on. So what you'll want to do is if you put in a bunch of stuff and you just keep adding code and adding code and adding code, then you test and stuff gets screwed up, then you have to start commenting out that code you added. Because you put something in that you didn't mean to. You typed it wrong, you did whatever. And if you look up on the screen here, you may or may not have noticed this, but probably the thing that people do most often is this. See that? Do you see how the color changed? And that you should be able to tell the difference in both brackets and in Notepad++. But not putting in a semicolon where you need one, or maybe even putting in more semicolons than you need. It's such a common thing to do. Everybody does it. All right? So we've now modified our H1. Now we want to modify the nav element. It says configure 1M of padding. In English, what that means is we want 1M all the way around it. Remember with padding and margin, top, right, bottom, left. Okay? So what we want to do is we want to modify the nav, and we want to add to that just padding, which will add padding everywhere. And we want to add 1M. So again, if you look up on the screen, what we just added was that line that's in gray. Padding 1M, which means give me 1M of padding on the top, 1 on the right, 1 on the bottom, 1 on the left. All right? So I'm going to save that, go back, and run the page again. And again, notice mine looks a lot better than it did before. Doesn't look like it's pushed up. For some reason, this looks wrong. It looks like it should be pushed over. Either that will be fixed, or I've done something wrong. I mean, it's one or the other because it's on these two. Yes. Okay, we'll take a look in just a sec. I promise. Okay. All right. Any questions other than that? Any questions on what we've done? All right. So we modified the nav. So now let's modify the footer. The same kind of thing. We want 1M of padding. Now, please look up on the screen here. It's up to us. What we literally could have done, where we've got that, where we just added that 1M. Remember, I could do something like this. If all I wanted to do, let's say to my nav bar and my, footer. Let's say that all I wanted to do to both of those was to add 1M of padding. I'm going to remove this in just a second. But let's say I wanted to do that for whatever reason. I could do it like this, correct? Where I combine them. I'm going to recommend that you don't do that. What's going to happen is you start tweaking this, is you're going to change one of these, but what you're saying is you'll start putting stuff in here and you'll forget that it's nav and footer. So I'd recommend, even though it's a little bit more work, to separate them out. So we want padding 1M, but we want it only for our footer. So I'm going to go down to the footer here, and I'm going to add that line. Again, that's 1M of padding all the way around, this line right here. And again, if I come back to keep running the schedule page, because it's the next one, that added a little more space around this. All right? And Drew, I didn't forget, we are going to help you in just a second. So what's left then is to configure these 3 styles, and there's not much to them. I'd like to finish this, and then once we finished it, I'll go over and help anybody who needs help. So now we want to configure styles for the main element. Left and right padding to 2Ms. Notice what it says here. You may need to nudge Internet Explorer. Depending on your point of view, Internet Explorer has always either been an innovator or a pain in the butt. I look at them as being kind of a combination of the two. All right? But this is especially for older versions of IE. So we'll put that in there. But we'll put all of this stuff. So we need to add something for main. So I'm just going to grab all this. And And I'm going to go down, and on the bottom, I'm going to add a main down here. And I'm just going to paste that back in. So we want padding left. We want that set to 2 M's. Padding right. We want set to 2 M's. So that'll do that. And it says you may need to nudge Explorer by adding display block. So that's everything for our main right here. Let me move that up a little bit so it's hopefully a little clearer for you. All right, so I just added all of this. We don't have a main rule, or we didn't have a main rule in our CSS. So we've added one. Left padding of 2 M's, right padding of 2 M's, and display block. I didn't mention this before. If you look up on the screen here, and I don't remember where it was, unfortunately. There, here, this is it. You don't typically see a lot of this. And what I mean by this, notice they used pixels and they used M's. You might remember this from the other day, you might not. Pixels is an absolute measurement. That's 50 pixels. That's always this size. M is a relative measure. So it'll do it based on, are you using a laptop or a phone or whatever. So you usually don't see a lot of mixing of these. Plus, as you start to create more and more newer websites, you'll have less pixels. You'll have more M's, and you'll have more percentages. Because that's how you make responsive websites. I think the author is trying to show you here, I'm not the author, but I think what she's trying to show you here is that you can mix them. All right, if you want to, need to, or whatever. It is not that it's illegal, you just don't see it very often. All right? All right, so we've done the main, and I'll put the other one right under it, so if you still need to copy a little, you'll have time. Now we want to do for the images. We want to set the left and the right padding for our images to 1M. And as some of you are learning the hard way, remember, it's IMG, not the word image. That will be on the test tomorrow. It will ask you what tag do you use for images. And she does this all the time. One of the tags she puts in there is less than sign IMG greater than sign. Then she also has in there less than sign IMAGE greater than sign. All right? So again, we want in here padding left and padding right. And we want them both to be 1M. Okay? So these are the 2 of the 3 new ones that we just added. We're going to add one more in just a second. That last one that we add, because we're done, is for that ID selector of hero. And we want the text align for that ID thing to be centered. I asked you before, you said it was a pound sign. You're right, so pound hero. All right, we want text align to be set to center. So these are the 3 new tags that we put in. Questions on those? All right, and I'm going to go and help anybody who had any individual questions in just a second. So when I run, this is what mine looks like now. There's the home page. There's the classes page. There's the schedule page. All right, we haven't done the contact yet. I think everything's looking the way it's supposed to look. Looks like I got a lot of margin over here, and I'm not sure why, but you may or may not have as much. Okay? So again, I'm going to walk around now, and anyone who has any questions, I'm going to help you. All right, then I'm going to have to fix that too. And I'll leave this up here in case you need it. Did yours get fixed? What's the problem on the top there? Okay. So first thing is let's look at your CSS. And whatever take it your path is right, as I was showing you before, correct? I don't see anything that's missing in there. I don't see anything that's wrong in there. So where's the CSS variation on page 4? And bring up the HTML page in there. Where you've got the URL in there, don't put a blank space. Get rid of blank space. Save it right there. That's a syntactical thing. All right. If there's anybody else who's got, something's looking wrong or whatever, please raise your hand. I'll come over and try to work with you. You got these colors though.
Yeah.
That's a start, right? That's a start. All right. Let's see. Can you bring that up to the top so it looks like at the very top? It's not in bad shape right now. Let's start by going to your CSS. And we'll go all the way back up to the top. Is there a blank? There's no blank space there. Okay. That all looks fine. I don't know what that is. I know that's not right. There is no heading top. There's no percent. Let's see. Let's see. For the H1. 50 pixels is what that should be. Yeah, 50 px. Why don't you just save that and I'll try to run it again. I want to just see how much it's changed, if at all. All right, so that's looking better, right? The layout still looks funky. So I think we got the right stuff. I think it's back in our CSS, so let's keep looking at that. Put that so it's up at the top. So. That means PX. Make that a little just pressure is where we're at. Somewhere you've got to fix it. Can you see answer? No, go. No, dash. No, not an underscore. There you go. All right, perfect. Okay, let's bring that up. Keep going. Okay. That needs to be center, colon center. Semicolon. All right, save it. Let's go back. Let's run it again.
Let's say that CSS round 2 for what you see.
Okay. It might be that you're making changes on one and using the other one. That's possible. All right. I don't know. So, is this the one I sent you, or is this the other one? But that's in download, so you should be all right. So just go to your other one here. Put your in this one.
sure it was the problem.
Nope, I'm not either.
So,
I think what the problem is this actually fits with me. I'm gonna go over, this is the one I sent you. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab, in fact, I'm just gonna grab all of them for now. Copy. All right, and paste. Save as. Two. Just try this. Come back to the index page. Just for that page, I'm going to change that to just that page. So it doesn't have the stuff that you added. I think what I'm going to do is it's kind of a waste of your time. You're seeing this. I'm going to grab my final page right here, this yoga one. I'm going to send you that one. After I send you this one, so let me do another, just going to save this to my desktop. And then we're going to try to grab that one, and we're going to put it in there and see if that fixes everything. Because if it doesn't, then the problem is in your HTML files. But just taking a quick look at your HTML file that was there, it didn't look like you had anything wrong in there. Let me do this. Okay. Okay, I just sent it to you. Now, it might have a different name on it because you probably already had a yoga file in there. So go ahead, right mouse click on this, and then open that up. And now right mouse click on that and choose Save Link As. And just save it right to your desktop. It should ask you where you're going to save it to. Not ask you. Sure. Something like that either. Okay.
I might just drag it.
I don't know if I can do that or not.
Yeah, really. I thought I did.
Get out of there, just pass it on.
What?
Very nice. Yeah, there you go. Save that to your desktop. just to the desktop. No, change it to just yoga. In fact, make it yoga, Y-O-G, yoga, or something like that. You know what I mean? Just so we know what it is. So, okay, save that. All right, now, close this. Go back to your desktop. Find that you'll drag it right into this folder that's over here. All right, you got it. Now, go back to your index.html file. Okay, change that to just yoga. Save it. Now try to run it. Okay. No, that's only going to fix the first page.
Okay.
So it does appear that there's some problems in your HTML. Let me go help you. Okay. Now, if you want to apply that to all the other two pages, the schedules pages and the classes pages, just go back and on your link line,
Right.
change it from yoga.css to yoga.
Sorry, question. So the things that are missing, it says we have Chapter 04 hands-on practice, which is the ones like outreach deal.
Right.
So I had that done, I sent that to you. Do you still want us to do hands-on exercises?
Yes.
Okay.
This will be the last chapter. I didn't get a chance to do that.
Okay, because the reason why I was asking is it doesn't have it on the coursework stuff, so I didn't know if that was something that we actually do.
Okay. Well, it should have been one of those things that look at the link up, but your picture of that is different than my picture of that.
Okay. So we still have to do the.
Yes.
Cool.
I'll get Eric and I'll come really quick. Well, I can already see, first of all, close your div tab. No, let's put it up, let's do this. Great, let's do it. All right, so that fixed it. Oh, okay. Go in your book and turn to about page 185. I think so. So,
Are you going to send me your receipt so I can figure out what I did wrong?
Everything else is